their own life, but they don't have the chance. It's a very sad thing, you know.
Two teens killed, one of their brothers seriously injured after an alleged drunk driver hit the Centennial College students while they were standing on the sidewalk. In just the last hour, a Pickering man appeared in court on a slew of impaired driving charges. Ali Chiasson joins us live from where the crash happened. And Ali, we are just learning that the driver accused in this was denied bail.
That's right. 40-year-old Michael Johnson of Pickering was remanded back into custody after a lengthy bail hearing this afternoon. In the meantime, the families of Damir Hussein and Wei Ji Li are grieving on the other side of the world. And locally here, a memorial grows with flowers from their classmates. This car left a path of destruction, hopping the curb, barely missing the bus stop, slamming into the guardrail, and then a group of friends walking to campus. Two 19-year-old international students died in hospital, where the brother of one of the victims is still recovering. They were here from China. The other was a student from Kazakhstan. They lived in residence here on campus. This would have been their home for the holidays.
These three individuals, in the space of one short minute, their lives changed forever. And it wasn't just their lives, it was a ripple effect that actually spread out and impacted families and community members, not just here in Canada, but also in other countries around the world. And I just want to say our heart is broken.
About 250 international students stay here over the holiday break. The news of the tragedy has shaken them. Centennial College staffer Marilyn Harry says they try to prepare them as best they can.
When international students come to our campus, we have a really comprehensive orientation process for them that includes traffic safety, road safety.
But nothing could have prepared them for this. The only preventable factor was one man's alleged choice to drink and drive. That's 40-year-old Michael Johnson's car in the ditch. He's facing 9 different impaired driving charges.
We've had over 1,161 related impaired charges laid in Toronto year to date.
Toronto police were out doing ride checks today.
The message to drivers is very clear. If you're going to get behind the wheel of a vehicle, you have to have zero alcohol, zero drugs on board, and you have to have an undivided attention while operating such.
Efforts have been made to make the area safer. The speed limit was reduced to 50 recently.
I really look forward to the college continuing to work with the city to make those streets safer.
But no matter what safety measures get put in place, police always say it's driver behavior that needs to change, or else this will keep happening.
We are just from the same country and they are young. They just died, you know, they still have a long time to enjoy their own life, but they don't have the chance. It's a very sad thing, you know. The parents will definitely, the parents will be very sad, you know.
Jack Wang is an international student just like the young men involved in the crash.
I don't know how to say, but I just going to pray and show my respect.
The driver, Michael Johnson, will appear back in court via video link in January. Dwight.
Ali, these are all preventable. Thank you. York Regional Police have charged a 37-year-old man with impaired driving after a concerned citizen called 911 to report his behavior on the road.
There's a guy in a vehicle who's drunk out of his mind.
Where?
Bathurst and Bloomington.
Okay, and which direction did he go?
The green Subaru Outback.
Green Subaru Outback? What's the license plate?
He hit a car. He almost hit a car.
Vehicle is on file.
Police were called to Bathurst and Bloomington 2 weeks ago after a man called to report the driver. The caller continued to follow the vehicle until police were able to locate it. The driver was arrested for impaired driving, and through further investigation, officers discovered that the vehicle was stolen and there was stolen property inside. The man is also charged with assault after spitting at a firefighter and police officer while in custody.
I think we're constantly shocked that we're still seeing anyone making the decision to get behind the wheel after they've been drinking. And I think it's the one piece that's sort of encouraging, that we're constantly seeing calls from our community.
Continue on your way, okay?
So far this year, more than 3,000 people have called York Regional Police to report a suspected impaired driver. Police are asking everyone to keep up the good work this holiday season, asking anyone who sees anything suspicious to contact them. Toronto police charged a 29-year-old man in the death of a woman unharbored yesterday afternoon. Emergency crews were called to a boarding house near the corner of Brunswick Avenue and Harbour Street. They found the victim with head injuries. She was rushed to hospital where she later died. Police have identified her as 51-year-old Julie Berman. The suspect, Colin Harnack from Toronto, is charged with second-degree murder. 5 tow trucks set on fire, all within 30 minutes of each other. Is this the latest attack in an ongoing tow truck turf war? Police are on the hunt for the suspects in the string of fires, and as Natalie Nanowski reports, drivers are calling on the government to step in before things get worse.
This one was so bad, part of the home caught fire.
All the people that lived in the house were evacuated.
And just a few blocks over, this one destroyed the whole front of the pickup. Firefighters had their work cut out for them. There were 5 of these fires between the hours of 3:30 and 4 a.m. 3 in North York and 2 in Richmond Hill. Authorities are staying away from confirming whether they're linked.
They're obviously very similar, but as far as the suspects involved, both our incidents happened right at about the same time. So in this case, we would believe there's potentially more than one suspect involved.
As for the Tow Truck Drivers Association, the answer is clear: infighting due to a lack of regulation about who works where, when.
As different parties move in and out of the area, there's the turf war.
This driver that CBC Toronto spoke with last week says he's been assaulted both on and off of the job. He fears for his safety, so he didn't reveal his last name.
I know of a few drivers who have left because they've been scared and they said it's not worth it. They have families, young children. I am scared to go on the highway.
Last week, 3 tow trucks were set on fire in Hamilton. There was also a shooting earlier this month at a GO station. And in June, gang-related arrests, some involving tow truck drivers.
In 2 robberies in particular, tow trucks smashed their way through the front of jewelry stores and firearms were discharged.
The Tow Truck Drivers Association says the turf wars are probably intertwined with organized crime. It's held talks with the provincial government, urging regulations.
Have a minimum training standard, minimum working requirements, then that levels the playing field.
Ontario's Ministry of Transportation called the 5 fires unacceptable, adding that it's working with law enforcement, industry, and other levels of government to discuss ways of monitoring safety for all commercial vehicles, including tow trucks. But it wouldn't say if new regulations are on the table. The Tow Truck Drivers Association worries that if the Ontario government doesn't step in soon and create some sort of rules or guidelines, that the situation on the ground is going to get worse and someone could get injured or even killed. Natalie Nanowski, CBC News, Toronto.
A Burlington man is facing more than a dozen charges, including human trafficking, after a raid by Halton police last week. On Friday, officers from Halton's Child Abuse and Sexual Assault Unit and ETF members raided a home in Burlington near Mount Nemo Conservation Area. It's on the site of Springtime Farm, a horse breeding farm, according to the website. 2 large safes were loaded onto a flatbed truck. Today, police confirmed 58-year-old Mohan Jari Alawalia was arrested. He's been charged with 7 counts of assault, sexual assault, extortion, and trafficking related to forced labor. Investigators said the alleged offenses took place in Burlington and Milton as far back as January of 2006. They also said Alawalia used the aliases you see on your screen now. Halton police say they believe other members of the community may have more information, and they are asking them to get in touch. Boeing has fired its CEO. He was the face of the company as it dealt with the fallout from 2 deadly crashes involving its 737 MAX aircraft. Jacqueline Hansen has more now from Washington.
The deadly 737 MAX crashes are the biggest disaster Boeing has ever faced. Today's change is a direct response to how the fallout has been handled. CEO Dennis Muhlenberg is out effective immediately after more than 30 years with Boeing and 4 years as the head of the company.
The board was becoming more and more frustrated. They did not see light at the end of the tunnel, and they decided the problem was Mr. Muhlenberg, that he didn't have the right stuff to turn around Boeing and get it out of this deep hole that it's in.
In a statement, Boeing says the board of directors decided that a change in leadership was necessary to restore confidence in the company moving forward as it works to repair relationships with regulators, customers, and all other stakeholders.
We at Boeing are sorry for the lives lost in the recent 737 MAX accidents.
While he was the face of Boeing following the crashes, many families of victims weren't satisfied with Muhlenberg's apologies. Here in Washington, Muhlenberg testified before Congress in October. He was grilled on what he knew about the issues with the 737 MAX and when. He was also challenged to take responsibility and resign.
Mr. Muhlenberg, you did everything to drive profits over safety. I think it's time that you submitted your resignation, don't you?
Congressman, I respectfully disagree with your premise on what drives our company.
The 737 MAX has been grounded since March, and Muhlenberg's optimistic projections for the MAX to return to service were missed, creating trouble for airlines. Boeing recently announced it will suspend production early in the new year. The company says Dave Calhoun, the chair of Boeing's board, will take over as CEO in January, but it's unclear what changes Calhoun will make to get production of the MAX back online and get the plane, crucial to the company's future, cleared to fly again. Jacqueline Hansen, CBC News, Washington.
Here comes Hyunjin Ryu. He strikes him out.
The Blue Jays have a new ace coming up after your weather. Who is Korean sensation Hyunjin Ryu?
He would be Michael Jordan plus Tiger Woods plus Jay-Z, all of the above combined together.
Did you just hear that, Nick?
I did,
MJ, Jay-Z,
It's a lot
and
to live
Tiger?
up to, yeah.
Oh, I can't wait to hear that story.
But you know what?
about
I'm
this
hoping
kid.
for a repeat of the 90s.
Yeah, let's go, buddy.
Let's see. Let's
All
see
right.
what happens.
No white Christmas, we're guessing this year, Nick.
No, you see this color behind me here, Dwight? Green. Yeah, that's basically what we're looking at. We hit 9 degrees today. Like well above the seasonal mark about 0. So 9 degrees for the city of Toronto, warmer down in southwestern Ontario. We're still hanging on to warm temperatures right now. We're sitting at 4 degrees in the GTA. And bear in mind, that's at 6 p.m. So after the sun is set, we're still hanging on to warm temperatures. Now, temperatures are going to drop for tonight under generally clear skies. We've got a little bit of cloud cover out there, but for the most part, we're going to see clear skies tonight. That's going to help temperatures to drop into the negatives through the overnight. Into tomorrow morning, look for sunshine to kick off the day. So here's your forecast into tomorrow. And then as we move through tomorrow afternoon, a little bit of cloud cover starting to build in. So mix of sun and cloud through the afternoon, and heading into Christmas Day, it's going to be a cloudy one, but actually still warm. In fact, warm for the rest of the week. There's your forecast for tonight. Minus 4 degrees. Again, part of that is because of the clear skies tonight. Wind chill of about minus 9. Tomorrow, 0 degrees. That is seasonal, and believe it or not, the coldest day of the week. Your full forecast, just a little bit. Dwight.
Thank you, Nick. Toronto Blue Jays fans got an early Christmas present from the team. The Blue Jays have signed free agent pitcher Hyunjin Ryu to a 4-year contract worth, get this, $20 million per season. Ryu instantly becomes the top pitcher on the Jays staff, and as CBC's Greg Ross tells us, he also becomes one of the most significant free signings in franchise history.
This was the biggest prize left on the market, top 3 or 4 available this winter that they went and got.
It's a swing and a miss. Blue Jays broadcaster Mike Wilner says the starting rotation just got a lot better, but it comes with a hefty price tag. Hyunjin Ryu's $80 million contract over 4 years is the most the Blue Jays have ever spent on a free agent pitcher.
He's not going to throw this big blazing high 90s fastball, but he keeps people off balance. He's got a killer changeup.
There's plenty of upside with the signing, but also plenty of risk.
Easily got picked off.
Ryu has been plagued with injury problems throughout his career.
It has been a real slog for Ryu, and the injuries have been all over the place: hip, groin, arm, elbow, shoulder, everywhere. He's been hurt a lot.
Do you think a lot of people in this neighborhood are going to be pretty excited about this signing?
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely.
It was huge news in Toronto's Koreatown. This man says he hasn't watched the Jays in years, but that's about to change.
Now I'm planning to to become a Blue Jay fan again, though.
So you're going to be buying some tickets this year?
Oh yeah, definitely.
That's perfect.
The news is even bigger in South Korea, where freelance baseball reporter Daniel Kim says Ryu is a huge star.
He would be Michael Jordan plus Tiger Woods plus Jay-Z, all of the above.
As a result, all of the Jays' 162 regular season games will be broadcast on Korean television. But Kim says on the days Ryu starts, the ratings will be huge.
It's a national event. Whenever Hyunjin pitches every 5th day, it's like NBA Final Game 7 every 5 days.
Kim says he also expects many Koreans to travel to Toronto next summer to come and see Ryu pitch live and in person here at the Rogers Centre. Greg Ross, CBC News, Toronto.
A rare midday game for our Toronto Maple Leafs with their sights set on the youth.
Longtime Leaf fan, and yeah, just want to spread like the joy of being a Leaf.
We wait all year for it because it's the only time that the kids aren't going to fall asleep by the end of the game.
I think it's a little too late.
Go Leafs, go!
Go Leafs, go!
So this is his first game ever.
First game ever, yeah.
Go Leafs, go! Go Leafs, go! Go Leafs, go!
Saw the youngsters walking around downtown today. Merry Christmas to you, too. Today was the first of 4 next-gen games. The Leafs hoping to attract a younger audience to Scotiabank Arena on this first day of winter break. And fans, young and old, definitely entertained thanks to a wild game against the Hurricanes.
2007. Here's Marner, scores!
This is absolutely unbelievable by Austin Matthews. A complete turnaround, tape to tape. You might as well ride them. They got a little rest for the. Oh,
Marner picks it off, driving the net. Marner to the goal, scores!
Those were 2 really nice goals. That Mitch Marner goal gave Toronto a 7-6 lead. The Leafs started the game with just a goal 30 seconds in and 3 goals in the first 5 minutes. But the Hurricanes answered and had a 2-goal lead leading into the third. That's when the Buds bounced back. Toronto would end up winning the game 8-6. That's one way to get some new younger fans with a nice win.
Boucher, fortunately, snares it. His 6th rebound. Lowry transition 3. Oh! Good! Bucket and book it!
Town of winners today. It wasn't the NBA Finals, but cause for celebration in our city. The Toronto Raptors scored its biggest comeback in franchise history last night. Down 30 points in the third quarter against the Dallas Mavericks. The Raptors scored a team record of 47 points in the fourth. Leading the charge, Kyle Lowry, scoring 20 of his 32. In the final frame, Toronto is the first team in 10 years to have made a 30-plus point comeback during the regular season. The Raps won the game 110-107 against the Mavs.
When you think back to Christmas Eve 2009, what do you remember about that day?
Everyone was just in disbelief. That was a terrible day for us in construction and construction safety.
A decade after a deadly Christmas Eve collapse killed 4 people, has enough been done to keep workers on swing stages safe? We take a look at the changes made in the industry coming up after the break.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
It's been 10 years since a Christmas Eve construction accident killed 4 migrant workers. The men were doing balcony repairs on a Toronto high-rise building when the swing stage they were working on collapsed. There's been a number of changes to the industry since then, but as Shannon Martin reports, one safety expert says there still needs to be more done.
This is a high-rise site that I would visit weekly, right? We're just making sure that all the workers are working safe.
Val Rachmaza visits multiple construction sites a day. As a health and safety consultant, companies hire her to make sure everything is done by the book.
When you think back to Christmas Eve 2009, what do you remember about that day?
Everyone was just in disbelief.
Hi, everyone. We begin with breaking news right now. A tragic accident with multiple fatalities at an industrial site in Toronto's West End.
It was one of the worst construction accidents in the city's history.
So we rushed out the balcony to see what happened, and then we saw one of the gentlemen was in the balcony and one was hanging from the scaffold.
4 men, all recent immigrants from Eastern Europe, fell 13 stories to their death. The swing stage they were working on gave way without warning. Only 1 man survived, suffering horrific injuries.
So that was a terrible day for us in construction and construction safety.
After the Christmas Eve accident, the province improved training for workers and increased fines for employers caught breaking safety protocols.
Do you think things are safer now?
Oh, definitely 100%.
Still, there's something much bigger that needs to change, she says, the culture of silence on construction sites.
As a woman in construction, when I first started, I was definitely scared. I didn't know everything, and I can recall not asking questions.
It wasn't reported until the criminal trial that workers involved in the scaffolding accident had little training. The man who survived testified it was his first time working at such heights. His training lasted just 30 minutes.
We're just going to do a quick little safety meeting.
Rachmaza makes a point to talk to workers at every site she visits, urging them not to hold back.
If you have any questions in the beginning of the day, you have to ask your supervisor.
Shannon Martin, CBC News, Toronto.
A coroner's inquest into the deadly scaffolding collapse was called last year. A spokesperson says it remains in the early planning stages. It's not clear when it may take place.
The level of impact and the devastation is just incredible, and we need to do more beyond our initial emergency response to help families get back on their feet.
Coming up, how a Toronto-based charity is providing relief in the Bahamas 4 months after the strongest storm on record there. Plus, we look at how GlobalMedics is looking to make a difference here in Toronto. That's coming up after the break. Since 1998, GlobalMedics volunteers have been among the first responders on the ground in countries hit by natural disasters. Whether it's an earthquake in Haiti, the tsunami in Sri Lanka, and most recently a powerful hurricane in the Bahamas, volunteers with the charity have provided food, water, and shelter to those in need. But as Philip Lee Shannock explains, GlobalMedics' mission has changed and grown over the years from an immediate priority to helping communities recover and rebuild.
For 36 hours in September, Hurricane Dorian battered the Bahamas. With sustained winds as high as 295 kilometers per hour, the Category 5 storm was one of the most powerful to hit the region ever.
We knew there would be extensive damage and devastation, so we ramped up our preparation and deployed a lot more assets initially because of the magnitude of the storm and the length that it stayed over.
Taking off. Once on the ground, the team surveyed the damage. What they saw was shocking. Food, water, and shelter were immediate priorities, but now, 3 months later, Singh says the needs of the people there have shifted, and so has GlobalMedics' mission.
The level of impact and the devastation is just incredible, and we need to do more beyond our initial emergency response to help families get back on their feet.
They started a program called Mold Busters and hired 30 local folks to remove toxic black mold from houses so people could move back into their homes. And this month, the charity started a new program that will help Bahamians to rebuild their livelihoods. Singh says drone footage showed that in some communities, all the fishermen had lost their boats. They've partnered with Composites Canada, a Mississauga-based company that specializes in materials like resins, fiberglass, and other products used to make boats.
We're providing all the materials and the manpower and repairing these boats, which means the impact at the end of the day is these fishermen get back out on the water, catch that lobster, catch that conch, and be able to provide for their families.
They've not only packed a sea container of repair materials to send down to the Bahamas,
this is kind of what we would end up doing is...
They're also sending an expert in marine fiberglass lamination to teach the locals the newest techniques in ship repair to help get their boats seaworthy again. He's not sure what he's in for.
You can see photos of things, but it doesn't always give you a real sense of what's going on.
This Bahamas project is just the latest evolution in GlobalMedics' mission to help people. Over the past 2 decades, they've had boots on the ground in 73 countries and have helped more than 3 million people. Singh is the Toronto paramedic and founder of the charity. He says when disaster strikes anywhere in the world, GlobalMedics' rapid response team, who are all trained first responders, are often the first boots on the ground.
I'd say GlobalMedics is a pretty unique agency, right? We're built on the foundation of putting emergency workers into emergency situations.
And it's evolved into a highly efficient and effective team currently active in 7 countries and planning to deploy to 2 more.
We identified a gap and we filled the gap. And we progressed and became this disaster response unit that your viewers all know and your listeners all know, because we get people clean water and medical care and critical infrastructure, shelter, and all the items that they need to keep them alive.
As he looks back over 2 decades of missions, Singh says he would only do one thing differently.
Push harder, just be angrier. It's a shame because, a lot of what fuels myself and fuels us is this rage and anger watching these injustices.
As for what's next, Singh says what they've learned abroad can be applied here at home. Using innovative techniques and a large and committed volunteer base, he says GlobalMedics would like to drive down costs for food banks across Canada. Philip Lee Shannock, CBC News, Toronto.
And our Sounds of the Season fundraiser for food banks continues. So far, you've helped CBC Toronto raise more than $717,000 for the Daily Bread Food Bank. You've also helped us raise almost 16,000 pounds of food. That is just incredible. Thank you to all that have donated. And if you haven't donated yet, don't worry, you still can. Either donate online at cbc.ca/sots, or you can drop off canned goods here at the Broadcast Center. We'll collect donations even after Christmas, right until the end of the month. And it looks like it's going to be a wet Christmas in Venice this year, as yet another wave of water swamps the picturesque city just weeks after record-setting flooding. As you can see there, today's high tide was thigh high in some areas. It paralyzed the city before dropping back to normal levels. Many complain the flooding is hurting tourism, while others worry about the impact of climate change and the future of this historic city. And Australia's raging bushfires are leaving behind a trail of destruction, but firefighters are getting some relief in the weather today. Temperatures have dipped after hitting a record-breaking 41 degrees. Now, fire specialists from across the globe, including dozens of Canadians, are helping out. Nearly 100 fires are raging across the state of New South Wales alone. Since the crisis began in September, the fires have taken 9 lives and destroyed more than 800 homes. Look at this, those raging bushfires also having a big impact on Australia's wildlife. Firefighters stopped to help this thirsty little koala in South Australia. More than 3.5 million hectares have been destroyed across 5 states. That's an area equivalent to half the size of New Brunswick. And scientists point to climate change affecting both Venice and Australia. And here, Green Christmas.
Green Christmas for us, yeah. It's quite unseasonable. In fact, when we started out in November, I was thinking that we were going to see a white Christmas and it was going to be cold. That's kind of what it was looking like. But in the last week or so, we've gotten this sort of warm wave, and most of that snow is sort of melted, at least in the city of Toronto itself. We do have some sunshine in the forecast for tomorrow. Not quite as sunny as today, but still some sunshine. A green Christmas as well. Temperatures are going to be warm. In fact, tomorrow is going to be the coldest of the days this week. And a Boxing Day mix. We're going to talk about that as well, because we are looking at the risk in some areas of some spotty freezing precipitation. But here's what we're looking at right now for temperatures. 4 degrees in the city of Toronto. That's off the high of 9 degrees today. You can put a minus sign in front of that, and that will be our overnight low for tonight, partly aided by these clear skies, so a lot of the heat sort of radiates away. To put things into perspective, this is a look at your averages. The average daytime high of just around that 0 degree mark. So we're well above average for today. Now, mostly clear skies for tonight. A little bit of cloud cover out there, but not too much. By tomorrow morning, look for sunshine. Cloud cover starts to build in, though, through the afternoon with a mix of sun and cloud. By Wednesday morning, Christmas Day, we're looking at cloudy skies, but it looks like it'll stay dry right through Christmas, and it's really not going to be till Boxing Day where we see a little bit in the way of rain showers coming in for the city of Toronto. But to the east and to the north through Boxing Day afternoon, watch for icy roads as temperatures hover around the 0 mark. For tonight, minus 4 degrees in the city of Toronto and actually surrounding areas as well. Wind chill of about minus 9, 0 and plus 1 across the region for tomorrow, and that is the coldest day of the week. In fact, into Christmas Day, we're looking at highs of about 4 degrees. Showers on Thursday, but as I mentioned, to the east and north of the GTA, the risk for some freezing precipitation. And Friday, 6 degrees. Dwight.
Incredible. We'll check back with you at the end of the show. Thanks, Nick.
Sure.
I was kind of, excuse my language, a burn the bra, hold the picket sign, march down, rah, rah, rah. And then I learned very quickly that all that did was build up walls.
10 provinces, 3 territories, but only one of them has a woman as a leader. We speak to the Premier of the Northwest Territories after the break. Words of love and hope from across the country are helping a small First Nation in northern Saskatchewan. A 10-year-old girl there took her own life last month, and the community declared a state of emergency. The federal and provincial governments pledged support, and crisis counselors were quickly sent in. But as Bonnie Allen tells us, other people wanted to help too.
Like every snowflake.
These grade 3 students in Regina are making snowflakes and cards to send to children in the Northern First Nation of Makwesagagan.
They are feeling very sad and are in the blue zone.
They're only 8, so their teacher didn't explain the suicide crisis to them. This is a lesson in compassion and kindness.
Just remember that you are special and unique.
600 kilometers to the north, messages have been pouring in from across Canada and from around the world.
I was just like, whoa.
Thousands of cards wallpaper the Makwesagagan school.
I know nothing about how you are feeling right now. All I do know is that you are not alone. Be strong. Something wonderful is coming.
These grade 12 students are overwhelmed by the support.
Well, in the beginning, everything was like so sad. There was barely students coming to school. Teachers were quitting. These letters helped a lot. It changed the energy around the school.
Of course, inspiring messages aren't enough. Crisis counselors are on standby. Several young people have taken their own lives or tried to in recent months. Band leaders are grappling with a lot of issues in the community, including parental neglect, alcohol and drug addiction, violence, and lingering trauma from residential schools.
It's been very hard.
Dorothy Angus is a teacher, but she has found it too painful to go back to school since her 10-year-old daughter Jaylin killed herself in early November. Still, she's grateful for all the cards.
If we were to read them all, I'm sure we'd find all that love from everybody across the world.
And she plans to return to the classroom in the new year.
I'm not going to sit back and hide myself in my bedroom.
Her own message of resilience and hope to join the rest. Bonnie Allen, CBC News, Regina.
Some sharp words out of China today. Beijing denies a claim that prison inmates are being forced to make Christmas cards for British supermarket chain Tesco. The controversy began when a 6-year-old girl in London was writing Christmas cards to her friends.
We were writing in them, and about on my 6th or 8th card, there was somebody already written in it.
Inside was a plea for help from an alleged prisoner. The message urged the reader to contact a former journalist who had spent time in the same prison. Despite Beijing's denials, Tesco has cut ties with the Chinese supplier for the cards and has launched an investigation. The Chinese embassy in Ottawa released a statement today criticizing the way the federal government is handling the detention of 2 Canadians in China. It's in response to the Prime Minister's comments last week that the U.S. should hold off on a trade deal with China until Michael Spavor and Michael Korvig are released. Here's some of today's statement. It should be pointed out that lately, China-Canada relations have encountered serious difficulties. The responsibility lies completely with the Canadian side. Canada knows the root cause, clearly attempting to gang up on China using megaphone diplomacy or pressuring China for unrelated matters is doomed to be in vain. We urge the Canadian side to reflect upon its wrongdoing, take China's solemn position seriously, immediately release Huawei CFO Ms. Meng Wanzhou, and ensure her safe return to China. A criminal court in Saudi Arabia has sentenced 5 people to death for the murder of journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Saudi authorities say justice has been done and the murder was a so-called rogue operation with no direction from the royal family. But as Carolyn Dunn reports, others are calling the trial a sham.
Jamal Khashoggi walked into the Saudi Arabian consulate in Turkey, never to be seen alive again. Now, after a secretive closed-door investigation, Riyadh's criminal court has sentenced 11 people in his murder. 5 are sentenced to death. They are the ones directly implicated in his murder, he says. 3 who covered it up will serve a total of 24 years between them in prison. The Saudi investigation concluded Khashoggi's murder was spur of the moment, not premeditated. That's contrary to the findings of the U.S. Central Intelligence Agency, a Turkish investigation, and a United Nations probe into the killing.
It is not, as they try to pretend, a rogue operation or a mistake. It's a state killing.
Today, she called the process a mockery of justice. The hitmen are guilty, sentenced to death, she posted. The masterminds not only walk free, they have barely been touched by the investigation and the trial. The publisher of the Washington Post echoed that, calling it a sham trial. Those ultimately responsible at the highest level of the Saudi government continue to escape responsibility, Fred Ryan wrote. The CIA has pointed the finger at Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman and his closest advisor for ordering Khashoggi's death. Saudi prosecutors insist there was no evidence against the highest-ranking government members, and this Saudi analyst told the BBC the process was transparent.
First of all, there's observers from Turkey, the family of Jamal Khashoggi, and there's members of the United Nations Security Council.
There's been no public explanation why, if Khashoggi's murder was an impulsive act, the killers showed up at the consulate with the tools to dismember his body. The remains of Jamal Khashoggi have never been found. Carolyn Dunn, CBC News, London.
Prince Philip remains in hospital in London. Prince Charles offered an impromptu update on his father's condition in a brief exchange with reporters earlier today.
Well, he's being looked after very well in hospital. But at the moment, that's all we know. So, thank you very much.
Prince Philip was admitted to hospital on Friday as a precautionary measure. Buckingham Palace says the stay is for treatment and observation of a pre-existing condition, but it did not provide further details. The 98-year-old Duke was expected to be in hospital for a few days. The Queen has not changed her holiday schedule. The Premier of the Northwest Territories brings some distinctive qualities to the office. She's a woman, she's Métis, and she's a former social worker. Carolyn Cochran says those are all strengths, and as Hannah Thibodeau tells us, she's ready to stand out in a crowd.
At the end of a long line of dark suits and ties sits the lone woman.
Really great to see a strong woman at a premier's table.
Caroline Cochran became the Premier of the Northwest Territories in October.
I think it's been probably a very long time before they've had an Indigenous woman at the table. So it was important, like I said, to educate when topics came up about Indigenous people. I was there to have a voice and to put forward my opinions on topics that were perhaps maybe controversial.
Cochran is Métis and a social worker for 20 years. She says that experience taught her how to approach situations like this.
I was kind of a, excuse my language, a burn the bra, hold the picket sign, march down, rah, rah, rah. And then I learned very quickly that all that did was build up walls.
Just 6 years ago, the picture was much different. Nearly half were women, until last April when Alberta Premier Rachel Notley was turfed, leaving Canada with no female premiers.
Miss Kathleen Wynne.
One former premier from that group of 6 had her official portrait added to the Ontario legislature. It took over 150 years for a female to join the men on those walls.
I think it can't be balanced when there's one woman and 12 men. I think that the issues that are discussed, we know from research that the issues that are discussed at a table, a decision-making table, are different when there's a critical mass of women.
Some hope this doesn't become a lasting trend.
I really think it came out of a shift in politics at the provincial level in contradiction to a progressive federal government. But, history doesn't evolve in a straightforward way.
Even with more women participating, so far, no legislative assembly has ever achieved gender parity between women and men. And no female premier has ever been re-elected to form government in Canadian history. Hannah Thibodeau, CBC News, Ottawa.
Plenty of movies are shot here in Canada, but very few take place in Canada. But some new films are bucking that trend. We'll take you to Hollywood for this story after the break. Two Canadian movies are turning heads in Hollywood. One tells the story of a young Indigenous woman struggling to survive in Vancouver. The other, a harrowing story of an idealistic refugee in Montreal. Zuleka Nathu has more now from Los Angeles.
You got anybody looking out for you, Rosie?
The film The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open is about two women who meet by chance. Both are Indigenous and from very different walks of life.
It's resonating with a broad audience, and I think it validates the fact that Indigenous people should be telling our own stories.
I love you so. It's set in Vancouver and shot almost wholly in real time for a more intimate experience, a quiet film making a lot of noise. Academy Award-nominated filmmaker Ava DuVernay is backing the movie with her new distribution company, Array. It's had a splashy Hollywood premiere and is now on Netflix.
It will help to just open the door a little bit more for us. It's never easy, but I think every step counts, and this is a huge one for us.
And for Canada as well. While many films and TV series are shot in the country, it's less common that Canadian cities or Canadian stories take center stage. That's changing. Antigone is about a family in Montreal dealing with tragedy. The issue of immigration is a central part of the storyline. Director Sophie Deraspe says homegrown themes can resonate around the world.
I wanted to take this side of empathy. We have issues with immigration in all Canada, in the US a lot also. It's an issue that speaks to the Western world.
Antigone was Canada's Oscar submission for Best International Feature this year. It didn't make the short list, but like The Body Remembers When the World Broke Open, it took a big risk. In both films, the central female characters were cast with no professional acting training. Zuleka Nathu, CBC News, Los Angeles.
Yeah, we're going to need some of that Hollywood fake snow to give us a white Christmas. It is an unseasonably warm end to December. Nick's back after the break with a final look at your forecast. We'll be right back. They may not be Christmas elves, but they're almost as magical. About 40 volunteers spend their free time during the holidays at the Mississauga Animal Services. They play a big role in the adoption process at the shelter, spending time with the animals and helping them get ready for their forever homes. Take a look.
The volunteers, the heart of the shelter. They are the ones that get the shy cats, the grumpy cats, ready to go to a new home. And without them, we couldn't do it because we're busy with the husbandry, we're busy with, sadly, sometimes law enforcement, but all the TLC, the volunteers, help us with.
We have a few different programs here. We have people here to come to socialize the cats and the kittens. We also have dog walkers. We also have a reading program for both dogs and cats. And we also have a pocket pet program where people come and socialize all those animals as well. And we also have a foster parent program as well. And that's for looking after pregnant, nursing, or orphan cats and kittens primarily in your home until they're old enough and well enough to come back to the shelter for adoption.
It's especially important because it's a very busy time of year in adoptions. We do kennel cleaning, cage cleaning, petting and socializing the cats. I've learned a lot about cat behavior and cat language from Teresa, so we pass that on amongst us volunteers and learn how to deal with the different personalities of the cats. Some of them are outgoing, some of them we call our TLC projects because they require special handling or they have a special need.
So this is little Jamie. This animal is very the cutest little pet that you ever seen. You can cuddle with them, you play with them, you give food and stuff, and hopefully they get a family for Christmas.
Don't adopt on a whim. You need to bring the family down. You need to come and have everybody look at the kitten or the dog or the rabbit or the hamster. You want it to be a surprise, I get it, but it's better that the whole family's involved, then everybody knows what's coming to the house, and the forever a home actually ends up being forever. Because it is a commitment.
It certainly is. So really think about it when you're making that decision, and shout out to all those volunteers helping out the people and the pets this season. Green Christmas, buddy. The one time of the year we want some snow on the ground.
I know. And I was thinking in November we're going to get it. You know, I just, last week I was up north of the city, about half a foot of snow.
Skiing, everybody's out there,
car stuck, and then here we are. Well, anyway, temperatures, you know, I can't complain. It was pretty nice outside today, 9 degrees. Temperatures tomorrow, a little bit cooler at 0 degrees, more in the way of sunshine in the morning, then starts to cloud over, and then into Christmas and Boxing Day, above zero, like 4 degrees, 5 degrees, even 6 degrees.
Wow.
Yeah.
It's crazy, buddy. No tobogganing this Christmas.
No.
You back here tomorrow too?
I am back here
We'll
all
both
week.
here. We'll see you tomorrow for New Year's Eve. Christmas Eve. I'm getting ahead of myself. Have a great night, everybody. Talia Ritchie has you covered.